Good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to be here with all of you, and welcome to the Junior Achievement She Leads STEM Summit sponsored by Cisco. We have a great day ahead for you guys. I'm Diana Kapp. I'm the journalist and author of a book called Girls Who Run the World, which I wrote for young women your age. Today, we're here because it's International Women's Day, and we get to celebrate women's history all month long, but today is a special day. We celebrate women from all walks of life. We celebrate their ingenuity, the growth we've made over the years as women, our contributions to society. And we know the journey is not over, it's just beginning, and we will continue to earn our place in history. Let's talk about a few trailblazers and celebrate women's achievement, raise awareness against bias, and take action for equality. I'll mention a few pioneers, and you'll meet a few later, but there are many, many more. To mark this day, we'll think about Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman in America to receive her Doctor of Medicine when she graduated from New York Geneva Medical College in 1849. In 1993, Dr. Ellen Ochoa became the first Hispanic woman to go to space when she served on a 9-day mission aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. Grace Hopper, who you may know from the film Hidden Figures, was an American computer scientist, a rear admiral in the Navy, and she invented the first computer programming language to use English words. And finally, Dorothy Lavinia Brown was the first African-American female surgeon, and she went on then to become a Tennessee state legislator. Most recently, astronauts Christina Koch and Jessica Meir completed the first spacewalk with an all-female team in 2019. And the United States elected its first vice president, as you know, Kamala Harris, in 2020. So many women are paving the way and opening doors to opportunities in positions that have been held mostly by men. These trailblazers are setting a new standard and giving women and girls role models to look up to and say, hey, I can do that. That's why we're here today. We have panelists who have not only raised the bar, but are here to tell you you can too. Before I introduce our keynote, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor one more time, Cisco. Cisco, thank you so much for being a part of today. We're so appreciative. So today's trailblazers span many different careers and backgrounds. These phenomenal women are here to empower you, to inspire you, and elevate you so you leave today knowing that you can do anything you set your mind to. So let me introduce our fantastic lineup of panelists. They're going to talk about their adversity, their career path, forging their own trail. So the first one is Josetta Jones, the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Chevron. Welcome, Josetta. We also are here today with Hannah Lavone. She's the creative director and vision behind the PALS brand. We'll hear more about what that is. Nisha Palvia is an analytics manager for Kearney, a global management consulting firm. Lisa Sugar, welcome, the president and founder of Pop Sugar, the leading digital brand for women globally. And finally, Karen Warren, district president for Robert Half, the world's first and largest specialized staffing firm. So welcome all of you. Before we dive into the questions, we have an incredibly special guest here to tell you about how she trailblazed her way to becoming the very first female coach in the MLB, the Major League Baseball. She's the first full-time female coach and the first to have coached a game on the field. So I bring you Alyssa Nakken.
Hello and welcome to the Junior Achievement She Leads STEM Summit. My name is Alyssa Nakken, assistant coach for the San Francisco Giants. and it is my honor to be a part of this signature event. I also wanted to give a quick thank you to Bank of America for the opportunity to virtually be here with all of you today. The goal of this event is to have each of you leave feeling more confident in yourself and connected to others who you are inspired by, who you want to continue to learn from, and simply genuinely good human beings who are intentional about helping you take steps forward in your career and your life. All of that lives within my own story. Inspiration, learning, intention, and steps forward, ultimately leading to confidence in my career and my life. I am someone who is easily inspired. Growing up, I saw so many types of people who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the boss lady businesswoman who takes control of a room when she walks in and has conviction behind the ideas and solutions she presents. I wanted to be the scientist who discovered things about the world and the human body that could ultimately bring peace and diminish suffering within my lifetime. I wanted to be the teacher who transformed the lives of her students by being a trustworthy adult who goes beyond the textbook and is truly there to guide young people, who are our future, to the next phase of their life. I wanted to be the producer who brought a creative idea to life through motion picture and music. Inspiration. I saw people in these positions with such confidence and purpose who I wanted to emulate. I think about this often because the title that is often written or spoken following my name, much like I did at the start of this, is a title that has never been associated with a woman before. I've never seen somebody who looks like me do what I'm doing before. So what guided me, the girl who tried to follow in the footsteps of just about everyone she came in contact with because she was inspired by them, to land in a role that I've never seen before? The people I just listed, the confident businesswoman, the inquisitive scientist, the dedicated teacher, the creative producer, all had traits that make up the type of person I didn't think I was. I was so hard on myself in high school. I got good grades, I performed well in sports, and had a plan to go to college and compete at the Division I level, but I didn't give myself enough grace in being Alyssa Nakken. I thought I needed to be everyone else too. And I would like to say, for the record, this pressure did not come from my parents or other adult figures in my life. It was just how my body chemistry was made up. I didn't let myself settle, and I had a tendency of dwelling on negative thoughts and not allowing myself to celebrate the small wins that I was accumulating in my life. I had dreams of being all these things, but I was really only taking steps towards what was right in front of me, and that was playing softball at Sacramento State. The idea of coaching a professional baseball team was nowhere near my thoughts or dreams. I recently looked at an old journal of mine and I literally wrote, "You don't dream big enough," in a prior journal entry. Learning. I love to learn. I was always okay with admitting what I didn't know, but I was not okay with settling in the unknown. I had to figure it out, whatever it was. After I graduated from Sacramento State, I spent the 3 days following graduation answering the question, what's next? Have any jobs lined up? What do you want to be when you grow up? My goodness, was that stressful. I don't know. A businesswoman, a scientist, a teacher, or a producer. I spent the next 3 days after that trying to game plan how to become someone who I wasn't, but who I thought I should be, because that's what you do when you grow up, right? You have this career and this fancy title and this buttoned up life with all this confidence and creativity in the world, and make change and make an impact and make all these big quote of the day things happen in your life, because that's what inspired us, right? Those people in suits or uniforms, or who know they have their why and their purpose figured out. And it's big, life-changing big. But I truly felt as though I lost my identity when I graduated and finished playing softball. I was the nerdy athlete growing up. I was the scholar athlete in college. But now I was just Alyssa Nakken. And remember, I didn't give myself grace in just being Alyssa Nakken. And then I was stressing because I thought, oh shoot, I should have thought about this while in undergrad. But I was so focused on what was in front of me back then. Sacramento State, my family, my close friends, my health. My focuses were starting to broaden, not to anything career big, but just broaden. In college, I was understanding what was truly important to me: family, friends, health, and being the best student athlete I could possibly be at Sacramento State. So now let's jump back to about a week after graduation and a lot of tears and Google searches of what to do with my life. I scored a pretty cool gig with a financial company, steps towards becoming that boss lady businesswoman, the summer after graduation. Shortly after getting my feet wet, I realized this was not for me. I missed that team aspect, that grind all season long for the big win at the end component, that feeling of exhausting the competition and going to battle for your teammates. So I started to research and learn about careers that had those components. And sure enough, the University of San Francisco offered a sport management graduate program. Boom, I found it. I didn't know you could have a career in sports, let alone spend a couple years on a beautiful campus learning about the sport industry. I felt like the next chapter was starting. I moved to San Francisco and began the program. Intention. I never really used the word intention when I was growing up. A phrase that was probably the closest thing to intention that I lived by was quality over quantity. If you're going to take swings in the cage, don't just swing to swing, but a few good quality swings far outweigh what 1,000 half-effort swings could do. But intention is probably one of my favorite words at the moment. It's how I live my life. But this is fairly recent, within the last couple years. So it wasn't during grad school. During grad school on day one, we had to start thinking about what career path we wanted to take in the sport industry. So I wrote down, I want to be an athletic director of a college. Oh, then I remembered I need to dream big. I want to be an athletic director of a Division I college. Check. I checked the box of the first thing I needed to do in grad school because the professor asked for it. But I didn't feel any sort of passion for pursuing athletic directing. But I started to work in Stanford's athletic department, go to school, and then found myself sitting in the stands of the University of San Francisco's baseball stadium watching a practice a few afternoons a week. I felt peace while watching the interactions between coach and player and seeing the execution of the drills get sharper and sharper over time as the confidence in the players grew. The confidence that grew from the intentional reps they were taking day in and day out, and encouraged by the coaches. One day, the coach came and sat with me in the stands. I told him what I was doing, grad school and working at Stanford, learning about college athletics from a business standpoint. We chatted, and then I asked him for experience. I didn't ask for a job. I asked to be around, on the field, in the dugout, in the office, with the players. I just wanted to immerse myself in this culture I was seeing play out on the field. I wanted to be a part of the team helping the team. So they said yes. No money, work all the hours you can, and add value. This is where I learned about intention without being told to be intentional. Add value. Everything I did for the team, I asked myself, does this add value to the team? Because I was working so many hours, I found myself asking the same question when I was off the field and at home. Everything I did, does this add value? It was then that I started to eliminate the things, the people, the energy, the tasks that didn't add value to my life. Athletic directing wasn't for me at that moment. I knew it wasn't the path, and I knew that I needed to be intentional about the opportunities I wanted to pursue. That's part of career path exploration, learning what's not for you. Another part of exploration is about discovering things you've never seen or done before. So I continued to grind with USF and then pursued an internship with the Giants baseball operations department because I trusted that that step was going to bring some value to my life. That's when I think the next chapter starts. Fast forward 7 years after my first day with the Giants, and I'm in the middle of my second spring training as a coach. The biggest obstacles I've faced thus far in this role include navigating a global pandemic while working with professional athletes who strive to compete to the best of their ability every day. The other biggest obstacle is internal. It's in moments where I can't seem to find the confidence. It's when I fall back into that negative mindset of not being able to settle and be gracious with myself. But when those moments and other obstacles present themselves, I intentionally take a step forward. I seek out the assistance I need if I need it, and with the help of my network, I step forward. My hire was historical. To some degree, it served as a symbol of all the women and male allies who took steps forward. They challenged the norm and pursued paths that weren't yet paved. It's my responsibility to continue that, to move forward, to add value, to be intentional in how I coach, to learn daily from those around me with different perspectives, to inspire those who know what they want in life but can't seem to see it on paper anywhere within a job title or job description, to inspire those who feel boxed into what society thinks we should do in our careers, and to break away from that box and explore all of the twists and turns that are inevitably going to happen in life. It's those twists and turns where the most growth and purpose and fun happens. So I challenge you to give yourself love for who you are and the work that you've done to get to this point. And it's only the beginning. Some of this may resonate with those of you attending this event. Those feelings of thinking you need to be a certain type of professional. But in my experience, by gathering lessons learned from others, inspiration from how they hold themselves, and finding characteristics that resonate with me, that's what helped me build myself into the current professional and person that I am. I'm Alyssa Nakken, and I work just as hard on myself every day as I do on the field. And that's helped me build the confidence I need to continue to move forward. I hope you find inspiration in the small moments of this event this week. Inspiration that will help you lead a life that makes you truly appreciative of the person you are every single day. The big job will come, the fancy moments will sprinkle in, but it's in the everyday. It's in you, not your title, that you find true satisfaction and purpose. Thank you for the chance to speak to you. I wish you all the best this week and beyond.
I hope you all feel as inspired by Alyssa as I did. Wow, what a really cool woman. I very much relate to what she says about not being so hard on herself. And I love the story of just mentioning to the coach, I want experience, because everything starts when you just think about how can I learn as much as I possibly can, and let that sort of lead your curiosity. So now we're going to get to meet these 5 very cool and accomplished panelists. And we'll go one by one through them. And I'd love you all to introduce yourselves, but don't just tell us your title. Tell us a little bit about what that means. What do you actually do at your job? And a bit about how you got there, your path to becoming who you did. So do you want to start, Josetta?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the invitation to sit on this panel. Years ago, I used to volunteer with Junior Achievement in Houston, and I always was so inspired by the young women, and actually the young women that were in the classes when we were doing Junior Achievement activities. But currently, I serve as Chevron's Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, and that's a mouthful. What it means is I make sure that we have talent that encompasses all of us in the U.S., in particular in the U.S. We have talent outside of the U.S., but is there somebody who looks like me who's doing engineering work, that is as a Black woman, as a female? Is there somebody who looks like my brother or my nephew or one of my best friends who might be Asian or Indian? I make sure that we have that and that we lead efforts to make sure that we get the full range of talent. Do I have one of my white guy friends from school join me in the company? Yes, because at Chevron, we recognize that we need a diverse and an inclusive workforce to make sure that we can continue to bring you gasoline and other energy to your homes. And so getting there started with an engineering degree because that's what we do, and I understand the engineers, and then also a law degree. And it brings it all together to make sure that in all of the aspects that we cover within Chevron, that we have the exact talent and young girls and women who look like you and who look like me.
Thank you. Hannah, tell us a little bit about how you got to PALS and what it is.
Yeah, well, my name is Hannah. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and now I live in Philly. I'm the founder and CEO of Hurry Hoopla. We make mission-driven socks called PALS. So our socks come mismatched. It's two different friends, like a burger and fries or a dragon and unicorn. Our message is that we don't have to match to be besties. So a few years after graduating from Syracuse with no business experience, capital, or connections, I started to dabble in selling cards and mugs that I designed at like local markets and craft fairs. And this hobby evolved into designing and manufacturing these mismatched predator and prey mittens called Versus mittens. So the predator and prey mittens morphed into socks due to seasonality and then rebranded to a stronger message I felt more deeply about, which is that you can be friends with someone who is not just like you. That is the very abridged version of it. And due to the strength of the concept and fun design, I was able to build out the brand to sell hundreds of thousands of socks, grow to be in 800 plus retailers globally, and get some nice press features and get to be on this panel. Very abridged.
Do you have any socks to show us?
I even bring one right here to have. If you come back to me in 5, I can grab it and come back. Okay. Oh, actually, right. Oh no. Here. So it's be purple today. So I'm gonna like show you. I'm actually wearing. If you can see them, okay. But I'm wearing quickly. It's a. Can you even see this? I don't know if you can see it. Oh well, I'll have to show you later. But it's an owl and mouse, and they're purple.
All right, Lisa, tell us about you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Sugar, and I'm the founder and president of Pop Sugar, which is a women's media company. And I started Pop Sugar 15 years ago, which in the media world is actually a very old, long time to be around for a .com business. But I started actually in advertising. I grew up on the East Coast, and I went to school on the East Coast and started learning all the ins and outs of how to work hard and learn different types of jobs experience in advertising in New York City, and then moved to San Francisco and realized it wasn't really what was my calling or where my passion was. And so I worked really hard writing on the side as a side gig, and I started Pop Sugar, which has now grown into one of the largest media companies and media companies for women. And we write about anything that you might be interested in, whether it's fashion, beauty, entertainment, fitness, and so on. And, you know, it's not something I started even until my late 20s. So I love to tell people to have as many jobs as possible until you start to figure out what it is that you like to do. And I was fortunate enough to be able to start it with my husband, which is another really fun fact. Our business is very much a family business. And within a year of writing, really 6 months of writing, I was pregnant with our first daughter. So we also started our family at the same time. And now 15 years later, I touch any part of the business. So whether it's brand extensions, licensing, I work really closely with our editorial team, creating videos, stories every day, brainstorming, and all sorts of exciting content that we create.
Thanks, Lisa. Nisha, tell us a little bit about Kearney.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today. My name is Nisha Palvia. I'm a senior manager at a global management consulting firm called Kearney. I joined the firm about 10 years ago and lead the firm's packaging tower at our design and innovation lab called Pearl Lab. That stands for Product Excellence and Renewal Lab. We work with clients to improve both product and packaging, designing for different things, designing for cost, designing for sustainability, and designing for function. I really love what I do because it helps me tie some of the two of the things I love most, and that's kind of the creative elements of design and then also sustainability. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved with my husband a few years ago to San Francisco. I'm the youngest of 4 children who have all pursued very different career paths. I knew early on that I was interested in how things are made. So I decided to pursue my undergrad degree in industrial engineering and have been had been working at my firm since.
Thank you. Lots of engineers here today. Karen, tell us about you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Warren, District Director for Robert Half in the Bay Area, and I am actually also a Bay Area native. I started my career with Robert Half assisting businesses in California placing and finding talented accounting and finance professionals. In the 17 years I've been here, I've witnessed the organization evolve into a multi-billion-dollar company. And we're a Fortune 500 company and named to Fortune's most admired year after year. The organization is dedicated to diversity and inclusion. 40% of our workforce are made up of women, and that number is growing, which is exciting. But, I'm committed to the development of a very strong workforce. We've got multiple individuals that we partner with in the Bay Area, both from a client and a candidate perspective. And Diana mentioned trailblazers in our opening statement. And so I would say to everybody out there, every trailblazer is just really their authentic self. And so on a day-to-day basis, every individual I'm working with, we're really looking to, promote their authentic self and, really make a happier workforce for all. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So nice to meet all of you. Okay, I'm not going to ask every single one of you every question, but I'll jump around. And so if I don't get to you on one, I'll get to you on the next one. But what I want you to do now is, if I were to have, if you were just to describe yourself the way you might describe your best friend, so like who really is Karen Warren, what would you say? Who is your authentic self and how would you describe yourself?
Gosh, I think the first word that comes to mind is disorganized. Although on the front, right, you put on such a great facade. But no, truthfully, I'm all about fun. I've always been about fun, whether that's in your personal life, in your professional life. I think that the two have merged, especially with the environment that we're living in today. But I think my authentic self is to have fun. Why get out of bed if it's not going to be something that you want to do? And so whatever you're pursuing, I would say that, make sure you truly enjoy it. It makes you happy to think about it, happy to have those discussions. And so I really try to live, day to day with, is this something that I'm going to enjoy and have fun with?
How about you, Josetta? Who is Josetta Jones?
That's I'm still trying to figure out who I am. But some of the things about myself, I think I'm witty. I like a good pun. Who doesn't like a good pun? And I'm thoughtful. And, I think that last one, I try to be thoughtful, because as we go through life and as we go through our school, career, really our friends and family gets us through. And if you haven't developed those key relationships with them, you can have a really hard time. In fact, some of my friends decided to join me today and tune in because they're excited about it being International Women's Day. They are excited about the fact that I'm able to talk to you all today, and they recognize that that we have a lot to offer. And I really appreciate it. We have a two-way relationship, and it's thoughtfulness on all of their behalf. And so I'm very thankful for my friends, and I think that it just shines through with all of us. You have a good group to laugh with, and you have some people that love you. And I think that's what I give out. At least that's what I like to give out. So that's what I think they'd say about me.
Lisa, I know you have a best friend that's worked with you for a long time. So what would your best friend say about who is Lisa Sugar?
Well, I actually was going to say I'm very loyal. I have, deep ties with both our employees and my just friends and family. I live, 3,000 miles away from my family. I actually just got reunited with my parents on Friday for the first time in 15 months. So I'm still on a very full feeling from that. But I think my best friend would say that, I'm a loyal friend. I'm the eternal optimist in the group that always wants to put a smile on someone's face. I'm a candy aficionado. I will always have candy and sugar around the house. I know it's not really good for you, but it's in our name. It's in our DNA. We have to have candy around. I like to say that I am an East Coast girl raising West Coast girls. Being an East Coaster is very much a part of me and who I am, but living on the West Coast now, and I have 3 daughters. that are being raised in California is another way I describe myself a lot. And hard worker. I'm always on, as much as I'm always family first. I was so fortunate to be able to start our company with both my husband and having our daughters come those first few years. So being able to blend family and fun and business has always been a part of our company and who I am today. And I think that that's something that, is weaved into our culture and our company culture.
I like this question, so I'm going to ask Hannah and Nisha to answer it too. So Hannah, tell us about who's really Hannah. A new mom is one thing.
Yes, new mom is one of them. So I guess currently I have baby brain, is how I would describe myself as, especially with the pandemic now. I'm just but yeah, I feel like some of these adjectives have been used already, but I think my friends would say that I am a very loyal friend. I'm very passionate. I'm definitely an adventure seeker. And I think I'm probably obsessively productive, which is unhealthy, but I have a very hard time with my work-life balance. But that being said, I think I'm really silly and, I'm always curious and love to learn. I'm a lover of fun, the unexpected, and quirky things. That's how I'd describe me.
How about you, Nisha?
Yeah, so I think I actually asked this question to a few of my friends just because I wanted to see if I would think in the same way they would. So I think they'd probably describe me as someone who's crafty, someone who figures out the most efficient or quick way to get things done, someone who's family oriented, someone who cares about other people. I think I can't sit still too much. I'm usually finding myself doing something or another, and I like to think that I prioritize those closest in my life. I think if you ask my niece and nephew, they would definitely concur. But yeah, I think those are probably a few of the adjectives how they'd describe me.
One very common issue for women in the workplace is something called imposter syndrome, which maybe some of you girls have heard of. But it's sort of this sense that wherever you are and whatever you've accomplished, that you sort of don't deserve it. It's a way of not believing in yourself. And for some reason, it's much more common for women than it is for men. And something, that you have to ward against. And so I'm just interested to know if, Josetta, is imposter syndrome something that you've experienced as you've gone through your career?
Sadly, Diana, actually it is. I think especially coming up in the math and science fields, practicing patent law, engineering and science is challenging, and there are not many girls or young women who are studying math and science, although the numbers are increasing. But when I was in school, there weren't as many. And so you have to sometimes question, wow, did I do that right? Am I doing the right thing? It always looks like it's so easy for the boys. I know sometimes there are studies about having gender-specific colleges, universities, and schools because the girls can actually be in an environment that helps them to just nurture and not have that imposter syndrome. But, having the imposter syndrome kind of enables me to dig down and to really find that strength within, like from my friends and my family, and also a little bit from music. So if I feel like I can't do something, I grab some theme music. And 2019, I think Lizzo really set it off for me, and she really helped me know that I could do it, how I'm feeling. The Queen Bee, Beyonce, she always brings it, and she's very talented. She's also from Houston, which is where I grew up, and so I really relate to that. And sometimes just for a little West Coast flair, Gwen Stefani and No Doubt, Like a Girl. So those songs may not resonate with the young women who were listening in, but if you go and look at some of those artists, they have some really good anthems for us. And I would challenge all the girls on the phone to make sure that you have some theme music, because that can really put you in the right way, especially if you're feeling that you're not measuring up, because you are measuring up. You can do it. And I fully believe that we can all do it. And we see plenty of examples out there. Don't let the imposter syndrome get you down. Let it encourage you.
Nisha, one of the things that you do in the job as a management consultant is you do lots of research about somebody's business, and then you kind of have to come in as the expert and maybe tell the CEO of a company, let me tell you what are some of the things you need to work on. So how has that been for you? You're a young person, still female, and how have you dealt with that, and have you felt imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so Diana, I felt imposter syndrome since even before being a management consultant. When I was an engineer, I was always one of the few females in the room. When I joined Kearney as a consultant, I felt maybe some imposter syndrome being fewer females in the field. But then also, like you mentioned, with my clients, so many times they're much senior to me, they have much more experience than I do. And I've gotten comments that, Nisha, I have shoes that are older than you. What are you going to teach me that I don't already know? And I think the biggest takeaway I can have is knowing that I still have lots to learn, but I still have a unique set of skills and experiences that can bring something to the table. And sometimes I've heard the phrase being thrown around, fake it till you make it. I don't actually love that phrase because I've never felt like I needed to fake it. I feel like I can own what I know and speak to that well and consult in a way that is helpful but humble, and then also be able to learn from the team that I'm working with, learn from my client, and I feel like keeping that open mind has helped me a lot and gain some credibility and respect from the people that I work with.
Lisa, you've been 15 years now at Pop Sugar. So I'm curious, and you're also raising 3 daughters. So I'm sure this is something that you've thought about. What is something that now, looking back, you would tell yourself in the early years that you kind of recognize now that you wish you would have known back then? And, maybe it's the kind of lesson that you're trying to imprint on your daughters because now you get it. And when you're younger, it was harder to get it.
Yeah, when I think back to high school, for me, school was not easy. I had to work super hard. And I think that the things that I was insecure about, you come to realize as you get older, don't even matter. So I always say, when I talk to younger folks, like, just know it's gonna get easier. You're gonna have hard times, but the things that you are upset about now are just not gonna matter. And I know that's a really hard thing to try to get through when, you're fixated on what is in the moment. That is so hard in your teenage years. But I think that with each decade, you get excited about what you can move on from and learn from about yourself and about being with others and about, who you want to be. And I love that I was fortunate enough to, grow up very supported with a great education and great family that loved me and all the means that I needed to get to the next level of education. But ultimately, I was told, as soon as I graduated college, to work hard, figure life out, you're on your own. And that is gratifying to have to figure out what you like and don't like along the way. So I just try to tell my girls, believe in karma. So you never know what's going to come back at you. So just try to be nice, put out those good vibes any way you can in the world, because you never know who's going to be on your path again sometime later. And ultimately, something that might be just really upsetting you right now, you're going to look back on it one day and you're just going to be like, wow, that was nothing compared to where I am now and how great I feel about how I know how to handle those types of circumstances in the future.
Hannah, when you were just starting out with Pals, or maybe Hooray Hoopla, how did you keep from saying, like, who am I to start, my own business and, launch something new? What made you believe in yourself enough to go ahead and give that a try?
It's really hard, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. My mom was very scared that I was going to end up home in the basement. She really wanted me to do what was expected, which was, went to art school, become a creative director at an agency or in-house, have a nice, comfy life, maybe marry a doctor or a lawyer. But, I think it took a lot of milestones for it to actually have things to happen to prove to myself that I can actually do this. This is actually happening when it's not as scary, when your first couple of retail deals, when you can go and give yourself a decent salary. There's a couple of steps I think that make it a lot less scary. as you go ahead. And until those certain milestones happen, then it is going to be scary. And you just have to have faith. And if you're getting good feedback, and to keep on tweaking and reaching out and learning until you can actually, make stuff happen for realsies. And that's what I did. But it definitely is, you have to be very strong to do it, especially when you're stepping out in a very unknown territory.
Mm-hmm. Karen, how about you? How would you look back on sort of earlier in your career and give your younger self some wisdom that you've now gained, having, been doing this for quite some time? What would you like to have known when you started out?
Gosh, so many things. But truthfully, it comes back to confidence. And, what I would share with my younger self and individuals that are reporting me today is you're your best asset. And so you're going to be the individual that pushes yourself forward. And so ask for it. If the answer is no, it doesn't mean it's no forever. You're going to be able to propel forward. I think that, what I learned early on, and I started my career in accounting, which is a very safe role. And when I joined Robert Half, I don't necessarily knew that it was a sales opportunity. And, over all these years, as I look back, I think if I would have known the job I was getting into, I don't think I would have taken it. I think I would have not had the confidence to do so. But today, I wake up and I think, gosh, that was the best move that I ever made. And once again, I think that everyone needs to find their inner strength, and there will be pitfalls, there'll be bumps along the way, there will be a lot of no's, but hopefully you wake up and there's been more yeses along the way, and that gets you to where you want to be.
One thing I'm curious to know, Karen, because you must spend a lot of your time interviewing candidates, because one of the big things that you do is place people in high-level jobs. As you talk to people, what are some of the things that you really look for when you see a candidate and you think, just yes, this person, has really got it going on? What do you notice?
Well, when you first start out, I work with so many candidates and clients and of different size companies. But truthfully, what I'm looking for is, does that person have the ability to learn? Clients will post jobs out there and you'll see the job description. You might think, I don't have that, or I need some more schooling, or, what could I do to gain that skill set? And at the end of the day, there is no perfect candidate. There is no perfect person for every role. It's really about their ability to learn. Are they insightful? Or do they ask questions? Are they inquisitive? 50% of the job might come down to skill set, but I would say 50% is really going to come down to what's their ability to roll up their sleeves and get in there and showcase that they could be the best candidate for the position. So I would just share with everybody out there, as you're going through it, you have to role play. I practice a lot in front of the mirror with a friend, a colleague, a mentor, and really practice how you're able to share with that prospective employer what you're looking for.
Josetta, what are some of the ways that you see yourself as a trailblazer? What has that meant for you in your career? What have you had to blaze?
Well, there's a lot to blaze there. I really want to pick up on what Karen said, which is just being a learner. I think that's one of the things when you're a trailblazer is that you do continue to learn, and you look to many sources for learning. It's not just book smart, it is, meeting new people. And when you go to new areas, like a lot of times my clients, especially in the legal profession, I worked internally at Chevron as an intellectual property lawyer. And I had clients that were outside of the US. They were some of our internal researchers. They were in Asia and in Europe. And a lot of times my day-to-day didn't have me in my personal life having a lot of Japanese friends, and Japanese where they're not Japanese American, but Japanese friends from Japan or who are living in China. And so that made me want to really learn more, not only about the technology, but just about the culture, because trailblazers are not afraid to step out. And I think that's what we have to remember as a trailblazer, is that you can't be afraid to step out. And so I couldn't be afraid to step out. I had to embrace everything that was brought before me that I was experiencing, embracing new foods, embracing new ways of life, embracing even perhaps the dress. When we were in Japan, my colleague and I traveled there, and we realized that the women had some nuances to their dress. For example, in the United States, we got to a point where we no longer wear pantyhose, but in Japan, we looked up and all the women were wearing them. And so we had to embrace that. And I think if you're a trailblazer, you can't say no. You have to say yes to many things, and you have to be open, and you have to adapt, and you really have to have a growth mindset. So I just want to leave as a trailblazer for all of you, because all of you young women are trailblazers. All of us on this panel are trailblazers, and we do not stop learning. We look to resources out there where we can continue to learn.
Nisha, I'm curious, I want to hear from the engineers here. So I guess you and Josetta, how did you choose engineering? That's not a field that a lot of women have gone towards, and yet we're in this era where STEM is all the talk and great jobs. And how did you come upon engineering?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I knew I wanted to be an engineer right away. I went jumping around to different majors in college. I think I started off as an economics major. Then I thought I wanted to be a doctor because my brother was a doctor and I wanted to be just like him. And then eventually I decided that because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew my strengths, engineering would be a really good option, and that to industrial engineering, because I like to see how processes work. As I mentioned before, like if you ever see the show How Things Are Made, I love seeing that, seeing especially how consumer products are made, from manufacturing to being on shelf or being used by the consumer. So because of those interests, I said, okay, why not just take a few classes and see how it goes? I'm also someone who's extremely motivated by a challenge, and I have learned a ton from those around me. And I saw a lot of engineers in my family, and I thought, this is something that is kind of an option that I know I will have a secure future in. So maybe that was a bit of the more less risk averse side of me to choose that option. And I have to say, I never look back. If you had asked me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that I would eventually be an industrial engineer, that I would get to go to MIT and pursue engineering as a master's, I would have never believed you. But I think the important thing to note is that nothing happens in one fell swoop. It's usually a step-by-step process. And I kind of take challenges as they come day by day. And eventually, long-term, you'll be able to achieve some of these goals that seemed unfathomable at one point.
Josetta, how about you? How did you choose engineering?
Well, my sister started college when I was in the second grade. And when she was going off to college, she was majoring in engineering. My parents would tell people, oh, Robin is going to be an engineer. And I thought, what's the big idea? What's the big deal about being an engineer? She's going to drive trains, because I'm in the second grade. So of course, I probably thought I knew everything, and I really didn't. But when Robin would come home on the breaks, she would bring her books, her HP calculators, her mechanical pencils. And although I definitely did not understand that, that was I wanted to be a newscaster. And my mom kind of encouraged me and said, Josetta, I think you should make sure that you have a job when you come out of college. You should probably study engineering. And so I decided to study chemical engineering. I liked chemistry and I liked math. And what I really found with engineering, even though I decided to go to law school, I did work as an engineer for a couple of years. But what I really learned is that there is a routine and a methodology of analyzing problems, and there will always be something to solve in any of our work. And so it's a really good foundation to being an engineer. And the way things are now, I would still go back and study engineering. We have so much new technology, machine learning, artificial intelligence. There's just so much to explore that I realized that it was a really good decision to study engineering.
Thanks. Hannah and Lisa, both of you are CEOs or, presidents of your company, your chief sock maker. That's, I think, what Hannah calls it. Maybe you start, Hannah. And if some of the young women that are listening today are thinking about, how do I become a better leader? How do I develop my leadership skills? How do I step into being boss? How are what's some of the advice you have for how you've done that better and worse?
Yeah, great question. So this is something I'm currently finding out how to better myself as we grow. But I think to start, being very goal oriented and really want to be helpful to other people. You have to really practice your empathy skills, I think, because a really great way to lead, I think, is to figure out what people need and how they can be inspired so you can do that for them. I think that's really important. You know, as they say, put yourself in someone else's socks. Hardy har har. But yeah, just like be as honest as possible. I'm actually part of a really cool group called Women in Toys. Not that my socks are toys per se, but they're very playful and they kind of hang out in the same group. So one of my mentors is at Mattel, and I'm very excited to, explore leadership as one of my main topics for that, because we did hire like 4 or 5 people this year full time. So it's like a new uncharted territory for me.
How about you, Lisa? So you sort of were a sole practitioner when you started, and you were just blogging in your bedroom. And then a few years later, you're in charge of a big staff and you're all of a sudden the boss. And what was that transition like? And what are some of the skills that you developed, and how do you suggest others develop those?
Yeah, I think for me, it is that idea of being a perpetual learner and listener. So building on what the rest of the panel and team have said, you have to constantly be learning from reading that room, your own employees. Like, I love getting ideas and learning from the youngest intern to, whoever's been with us the longest. There's just so much range in every level. And I think for me, it took a long time to feel really comfortable to get up in front of a lot of people, to talk in front of people. I had my own anxiety issues that I needed to get comfortable with. But Pop Sugar, as it started, it was me, and then it was 5 of us, and then it was 500 of us. And that's where I really started to learn what people needed and how to create individual career paths for the team. And what was really fun was we were building a company that never existed before. So there are lots of media companies out there, but we were rewriting what a traditional newsstand was, or a newspaper, right? So we were able to create our own rules and create our own paths for individuals at the company. And we've had a lot of people who wanted to change their career over the years. And I think one of the best parts of being a leader was just listening to them and learning and figuring out their individual strengths and helping them mold their futures as they grew. We all grew up together. That's what I love to say. And then with each new person that comes into the company, now that we're 15 years, obviously there's a lot of transition and turnover. I love meeting every new employee. I give a voice and overview presentation to every new employee, and I try to show them how we're different, what Pop Sugar's point of view is, and for their own career path, what I'm hoping to hear from them, and trying to have that open door policy where anyone can come to me at any time, and making sure no one is afraid to talk to me at any time. Like, I want to meet and be able to be with everyone on the team, as big as that team gets. And then the other big thing I think that's really important that I learned is really transparency in the company. So Brian and I had always had, a lot of town halls where we could tell everybody all sorts of updates from the company, whether that's exciting events that are happening or financials of the company. And I think that's another really important thing that most people, when they sign up for a job, to be a writer or a journalist, they don't necessarily care about EBITDA and numbers that exist to make the company go round. And to be able to educate the team on why it's so important to learn how to business run is something that has helped, instill confidence in myself as a leader, to also learn things that were out of my own job description. So constantly learning and making sure we can get that information back out to the team is something that I'm always evolving and teaching our own employees in-house.
Lisa's in my book, so I heard a story from her that I often think about and I want to share with you, which is when Pop Sugar started and they really were just at the beginning, Brian and Lisa were building the desks. They're the people that are, going out and getting snacks for their employees when it's like a late night at work, and sort of this attitude that's like, I'm not above anything, and we just jump in and help. And I've always thought that that's something I really want to impart, that just, that is the kind of attitude that I think really sets people apart.
And that doesn't stop. We did an event in 2018 in New York City called Pop Sugar Playground, where we had 10,000 women come, and it was the first large mass experiential event we had. And the night before, I'm on the floor creating, VIP gift bags and helping stuff everything. I mean, that's the part of it that I think is so fun, and working with the team and being with them through all parts of, the jobs that exist. And I always hope to continue to do that for the brand and the company that we created.
One of the things I think is really great is being able to kind of look at times that don't go well and be kind of vulnerable and be open about them, because they always happen to everybody. And so maybe a couple of you, Karen, you want to tell us about a time when something didn't go well and how you handled it and how you kind of managed your way through a situation, whether it was personally or, personal problem with at work or career.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll just use probably the most recent, which is all of last year. Overnight, I had to remobilize our entire workforce within a 24-hour period and get people home. And, that was difficult in and of itself. And there's been so many difficulties along the way. But when I look back, we are really talking and spending a lot more time talking with individuals about their well-being. And, I think what I was doing is I was going around and having multiple conversations all over the place with many internal employees and friends and family. And, but, I wasn't necessarily having those conversations about me either. And I think, what I've seen is a definite journey over the course of the last year now in terms of, what that well-being journey has looked like for myself. And, while there's been, some bumps along the way, I think the most important thing for me is to remember that, it's when things are new and it's new for everybody, it's okay to say, I need help. I'm not feeling good about this, or, I'm also experiencing this. And it's being, I think I mentioned earlier, your authentic self. It's really, sharing how you're feeling from both a personal perspective that may pertain to the workplace as well. So, I don't know if it's necessarily a story. I think it's just been a journey for me over the past year. And I think the journey continues, truthfully. I think we're going to wake up and hopefully all be better employees and better managers because of it. And I think it's, listening to that quiet voice in the room as well. Sometimes we're sitting in meetings and you've got some people that are just, sharing everything, but it's also looking around and listening to that quiet voice. So what aren't they saying that's important? And I think for all of us as well, what was my quiet voice? How was I feeling during all of this as I was having these conversations? And, once again, it's been an interesting journey, but I truthfully believe that I'm a better manager because of it.
Nisha, do you have a good example of some time that's felt difficult and that you're willing to share with us?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So I think this happens a lot of times in my field where I'm consulting in a particular topic and maybe my clients don't agree. It's so often they know their product better than I do. And so they come and say, what advice can you really give us that we don't already know? And for that particular example, if I could just maybe draw a very specific example. So within the product excellence and design and innovation lab that I help run, we often look at product teardowns and look at how initial product designs maybe don't 100% fit the consumer needs of today. And I'm of the mindset that the answer 99% of the time lies in the data. And so that's what I usually come back to when I'm dealing with a challenge like that. Is I try to do a bit of consumer sentiment analysis and see, what are the online reviews saying? What are consumers saying? Are there any focus groups I can run? Are there any surveys I can run to see that is that design element really as critical to the consumer as maybe you thought once when you initially drafted the design, or is it something that can be changed? Is it can be even can it have a value up in terms of design while taking out perhaps some of the cost or adding elements of sustainability? I think there's so many things that maybe go discounted when we don't look at, I hate to use the term big data, but yes, big data. When I can see answers, it's usually, that's where I can find it in the data itself.
Hannah, you were this really creative art person and doodling in your sketch pad, and that was sort of where all this comes from deep inside you. But then once you're running a business, you need to learn a lot of technology and use math to handle your expenses and and getting investors. And I'm just curious how you kind of match those two sides of yourself. You didn't come to this with sort of an orientation towards business or towards, understanding the business side.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was really excited after I graduated college that I wouldn't have to do math because I went to art school. I really didn't like math. I had a learning disability that made me have to go over stuff over and over again with all these like long processes to understand. And, it's so funny how this ends up happening, because even if you're going to have a creative business, it's a business is just like math. I mean, that's really what it is, because you have to make money to have a business. You have to manage expenses to have a business. Or I guess that's not true. You can have a business and don't make money, but then you can't actually, stay alive. So it's really been quite a process of accepting that math is just going to be in my daily life forever now. But it's been a very long road to figuring all that stuff out. I really I think I'm a lot more responsible now and a lot more focused than I was when I first started this. And I also hired a COO to help run a lot of that too, to help me out, because I don't think I naturally go towards that place. So that's been really helpful. But yeah, it's really funny how math is just like business. The end. So funny.
How about you, Lisa? Have you had to kind of go against your inner self, or did you have some kind of understanding of business concepts and sort of knack for it?
I definitely didn't have a knack for it. And I think that I loved the process of learning how to, pitch people to get investment for money. Building on Hannah's comments on math, I definitely was not a strong math student either. And I was looking forward to days where I wasn't going to have to do math, and it didn't matter. Always came back to math. I studied psychology and English, and my first jobs in advertising were all managing multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. And now at Pop Sugar, again, yes, you hire a really great CFO or someone who can help really, be the brains behind that part of the business. But as a writer, we love analytics and data. So we want to know what stories are the most popular and how they're shared and how people are engaged with our content. So we are constantly looking at numbers and analytics. So I do think that as much as a student in school, I might have thought that I didn't like math, there are ways to make it fun in the future as it applies to what you're excited about doing in the future. So I will add that about math.
Yeah. Anyone else here have something to add about math? I think it's just so important. Anyone have something unexpected that's happened to them where they've had to use math more than they thought? Josetta, one of the things in life is that you're always learning. Even when you're far along in your career, you still have things that you're working on and trying to get better at. So is there something right now that you're trying to improve and you're focused on getting better at?
Actually, yes. It feels like all the time there's something I'm learning. A few years ago, part of it is with social media, particularly Twitter. A few years ago, after Twitter came out, I thought, well, I'm not going to tweet or anything. Why do I need to know that? And then I was like, everyone is tweeting around me. Maybe I should at least learn what it is and how to do it. And so I practiced. And, I have myself a Twitter account. I don't tweet. I do like it a lot, though, because I get the tweets and it keeps me up to date. I realized that you cannot get to a point in life and say, I'm done learning. That even things that make you uncomfortable, the way I feel right now with respect to computers and social media and everything that has an app is you can't break it. I mean, everything is you just hit a button, you put in your password and your name, set up an account, and you go. You really can't break it. We're not programming anything. Although I did try to learn some new programming languages. The ones that I had were really, really old, maybe even ancient, that I knew from when I was in school. And so I looked up on Rosie on Rails, and that was some years ago. I suspect Rosie on Rails is kind of old right now. But, even in my new job, there are aspirational things. I am not much of a poster on social media, but with my new job, part of it is engagement with people. And we have platforms to engage. And so I'm learning more about the analytics. And I guess there's math there too in the data, more about the analytics of social media and how you can really get your word out there. I made a movie last year. I made a movie when we were in the lockdown using my iPhone. I also made a movie earlier this year, and the iPhone makes it fantastic. iMovie makes it fantastic and so user-friendly to put together a collection of what you have, what you see out in the world, and that's what we're doing. And I look at some of the programs. I was watching a program on Netflix, and it was about some high school students, and everything about what they were doing was social media and capturing the world as they see it. And so I'm constantly trying to learn something new so that I can be part of the conversation, if I can understand others, the younger generation, understand what drives them. And I would never stop learning. We can't stop. We can't afford to stop learning.
Thank you to all of you. We're out of time to hear your awesome comments. Students, think a little bit about what Josetta just said and think about something that you really want to learn and how you might go about doing that. Also, students, don't forget to take the survey. By completing it, you'll be entered into a drawing to win an amazing swag bag. So do that. There's going to be some very fun workshops over the next couple of days. We have coding and cybersecurity with Cisco, resume and interviewing tips with Robert Half, genetic testing with Invitae, and careers in mental health with Kaiser Permanente. Be sure to check your itinerary. If you run into any difficulties, please go to the help desk. We have volunteers there to help you. And now I'm going to introduce the head of Junior Achievement Northern California, President and CEO, Christine Burr.
In honor of International Women's Day, we celebrate S.H.E Leads, which is about strengthening her education and empowering young women and girls to become trailblazers and future leaders. Over the next few days, you'll be in a position to obtain so much information and knowledge, make connections, and network with amazing women from various backgrounds and industry sectors. Women who want to tell you that you can do anything you set your mind to. Embrace the moment and take advantage of the opportunity. Thank you to our inspiring keynote speaker, Alyssa Nakken. She's the first female coach for the Major League Baseball team and our very own local San Francisco Giants. Talk about a trailblazer. She is the first, but she will not be the last. I hope her words have encouraged you to reach for the stars. Thank you also to our moderator, Diana Kapp, author of Girls Who Run the World book. Each of you should get your hands on. It's all about girl power, and we need to empower each other more than ever. Thank you to our panelists, Josetta Jones from Chevron, Hannah Levon from Pal Sox, Lisa Sugar from Pop Sugar, Nisha Palvia from Carney, and Karen Warren from Robert Half. Y'all gave motivating and powerful advice, so thank you. Huge thanks to our presenting sponsor, Cisco. We appreciate your support. And listen to the sponsors that contributed to this event. Chevron, EY, Carney, Invitae, Robert Half, Bolero, Align Tech, Kaiser, Genentech, John Muir, Roche, Armanino, Google, Salesforce, CNA, Aon, Webcor, and Wood Rogers. Wow! Thank you also to our workshop sponsors. We have so many great companies here to provide educational experiences that will inspire you to make career choices and motivate you to think big. Again, thanks to Kaiser, Cisco, Chevron, Align Tech, Roche, Pixar, Google, Disney Plus, Microsoft, Netflix, all offering experiences that will leave you wanting more. I'm hoping you signed up for as many workshops as your time will allow. Please be sure to check your itinerary. You know which ones are happening on what day and time. Your itinerary would have been emailed to you and includes your workshops, mentoring sessions, Zoom room information, and information about our JA help decks that will be standing by, ready to support you if you have any issues. Finally, don't forget to take our survey for the chance to win one of our many student swag bags, which include Apple AirPods, a Trailblazer hoodie, Girls Who Run the World book, a Pura Vida bracelet, and much, much more. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. This is our Mentor Day. Mentors from all industry sectors will be coming to inspire you to be the change. You can be your own trailblazer. So go out there and blaze your own trail.
Thank you all so much for coming. It was a fantastic program. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, Christine, for putting on such a great show and pulling together all these amazing companies here to teach you gals something that you want to know. So tune in over the next few days and have a wonderful International Women's Day, and go out and run the world, all of you.